What attracted me to Child's Play is what attracts everybody, which is it's every child's nightmare. The doll that comes to life, that comes from, of all people, Brad Dourif, who's actually a wonderful guy.
The script came to me while I was shooting a film somewhere in New Mexico. And it was Tom Holland who said, there's this character who's going to be eventually a doll. Do you want to do it? And I said, sure.
We had to find the mother, and we interviewed quite a few people. Catherine came in, and Tom was very excited about her, and I thought she was adorable and cute and wholesome, and she read for the part, and she was excellent.
The script for Child's Play came to me through my agent, and it was very emotional. There were even more scenes between the mother and son, and it was a very rich backstory of how I was a single mother, what happened to my husband, why my son is traumatized, prone to fantasy, so that's partly why we don't believe him when he talks about the doll.
You know perfectly well that you're making this up.
But I'm not. Chucky's alive, really.
Andy, Chucky is a doll.
And then from that point, we had to find a little boy. And that's difficult, to find a little kid that can really kind of go through what this film was about to ask of he and his family.
I got the audition for Child's Play. They brought me back for a callback. And I had to do the line, Aunt Maggie was a real bitch and got what she deserved.
He said Aunt Maggie was a real bitch and got what she deserved.
And I wasn't comfortable saying that. So when it got to that part in the reading, I said, I'm sorry, I can't remember the next line. I don't remember it. They said, and they gave me the line. They said, you remember, try it again, start over. And when I got to that line, I was like, look, I'm having a really hard time remembering this. I can't remember it. And they said, okay, look, we'll start over from the beginning and see how it goes. And it comes over, and it got to that line, and I broke down. I said, I'm sorry, I knew the line, I just couldn't say it in front of you. I couldn't get myself to say it. And I think they were so convinced that I had really forgotten the lines. They said, hey, this kid could act. He fooled all of us. Let's give him the job.
I was not married. I was not a mother, and I'm playing a mother. It was my first mother role.
I remember we were a little uncomfortable trying to set up our dynamic between the two of us.
We had the first run through, and here's this little 6-year-old and there was this tension, and he could feel that I didn't know what to do with children.
So I don't know if it was my mother or my acting coach who came up with this idea for her to give me they found this little crystal ball.
Alex's mom gave me a little thing and said, tell him that this is for him.
She took me aside and she said, okay, this is a magic ball, and you're gonna hold on to this.
And so just slowly started to break down the ice.
It was like a real bonding experience for us, and I still have this thing at my house.
By the time we started principal photography, we were tight and close.
To train for Mike, I actually spent some time with the Chicago Police Department, which is not all that unusual. And it's a great way of getting a feel for the job. I went on a couple of actually rather frightening calls with these 2 detectives that I worked with. And I must say, I was scared witless.
Good night, asshole.
Tom Holland was pro rehearsal.
I got you.
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut. You think you can fuck with me?
But the rehearsal went great because I was acting out Chucky as the doll.
He would be the doll. He was Chucky.
Andy, stop her. I'm your friend to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend.
Action!
Production started off in Chicago.
Alex!
We had no place to work because it was only a couple of weeks, so we had to work out of our hotel room. I remember I had boxes of dolls all over the place. We had it set up for the whole scene at the very beginning of the film where the toy store just explodes. That was fun.
We filmed that winter. We started New Year's Eve.
And cut. We did a fair amount of night shooting in Chicago during the coldest part of the winter.
I had to do my stuff as Charles Lee Ray, and that just involved a lot of running in very cold weather.
Don't leave me, God, no!
There was a scene in which Catherine Hicks, who plays Karen, gets into a cab, and I try to stop her.
You hear me? You don't want to go down down there at this time of night?
I walk out of the door and I go to stop her, and literally I walked out and I went,
Tus trailers. Visita mi canal.
my vocal cords froze in my throat.
All the exteriors were done in Chicago, but the interiors were really done back in Culver City on the lot there.
We got back to LA, and I thought, well, here's the doll.
Working on the set with all the cool stuff that they had to make Chucky and all the different sets that they had was the coolest thing for me.
It was really exciting just to do all these things, you know, with people that were so incredibly versed at doing these effects. Kevin really asked a great deal of his crew and really pushed everybody to the very end to try to make the doll do things that was demanded of it in the course of the production.
It took a while to find his character, too. It was the first time we ever did it, so, you know, the puppeteers were adding to this. So it took us almost the whole film just to figure out who he was.
How about a sneeze? I like that. Ready? Sleepy Gesundheit.
I don't think I slept much, you know, in 6 months, you know, just building him and then going to set.
Ready? And action.
Alex Vincent was very mature for his age. David Kirshner was concerned that we'd get Chucky on the set and how Alex would react to it.
They took me into this room, they showed me that I met the 9 puppeteers, or 7 or 9 puppeteers that operated him, and I thought it was the coolest thing. We were able to, you know, show him how Chucky worked, you know, behind the scenes. You know, we pulled up his shirt and we showed him, you know, the mechanisms, and we showed the puppeteer working. And he was great from the, you know, he never looked at it and was frightened of it. He was a great kid to work with, and he had no problems. I think the most popular question that I've been asked my whole life is if I was afraid making the movie. And I always say, you know, when they said cut, he stopped trying to kill me. So I had nothing to be afraid of.
I am amazed in looking at it, what we were able to accomplish with very simple, rudimentary filmmaking techniques. There's a scene where Chucky's walking down a hall, and you know what you don't see is that there's a dolly that's being pushed as the camera's on him as he's looking back and forth across this hall, and it worked incredibly well. Sometimes we would use a version of the house that was 30% larger, so when we put a little person in a costume, that little person looked like he was much smaller.
Several times we used Ed Gale. He's about 10 inches taller than Chucky. We would come to the shop and he would study the doll because we decided if he just moved fluently, we could not mimic that.
The wonderful actor that played Chucky as a little person studied what Kevin was doing with the movements of the doll and tried to capture that movement in his movements.
We used him in scenes like when Chucky gets caught on fire, he runs around. It's a 30% bigger stage, so Ed was about 30% bigger than Chucky, so they literally built an entire living room stage 30% larger.
Okay. All right, you're out. Stop.
I did work a lot with various mock-ups of the doll. There's a scene in which the doll attacks Detective Norris in the car, and it took weeks. I remember one day in particular where all I did was my hand on the dashboard reaching for the radio, because he ultimately grabs for the cigarette lighter to burn the doll. That took almost a day. It's a real challenge in these movies to keep a kind of spontaneity. You're imagining whatever it is that's behind you. That was a little strange to see these guys kind of lurking down there, you know, operating animatronic handles and things. It's exhausting, exacting, sometimes all night, hours and hours and hours of just doing things over and over and over again to make sure that the camera angle is exactly right so the glint on the knife is caught. It's an exhausting process. The end result is fun, and it's great.
This is the best blood in the business. It's called, he calls it real blood, R-E-E-L. And I'm not kidding. They use it in all the movies.
In terms of my acting, I would substitute for Chucky a snake, like I hate snakes. I would just make myself afraid by thinking it was a snake under the sofa. I had already heard the name Kevin Yeager, and I'd seen you with the puppeteers, and I thought, oh my God, he's so cute. minutes. I had one scene left. And I saw him sort of go out the door, you know, way at the end of the soundstage. And I thought, I wonder if he stayed to watch me. That's my first time I saw you.
And you were in love instantly?
Uh-huh.
You were. You don't remember meeting me the first time. I walked up, Miss Hicks, and I handed you the doll, and you were hot. In, you know, the middle of all of that, horror, death, blood, violence, two people found each other. And we're still together.
Yeah, 17 years.
There was a whole cut of the movie where Tom brought in an actress to do the voice of Chucky.
They were just going to replace my voice stuff. Just let me be Charles Lee Ray, and they were going to do the voice. But it totally didn't work.
Even though Brad Dourif played Charles Lee Ray in the prologue, there was a whole cut of the movie, and it's really funny because Chucky sounds gay.
By the time they came back to me, they were a little on the desperate side.
You know, when I came here learning all that stuff about how to beat death, I thought maybe you were pulling my chain.
I went back to what was that I had done originally in the first rehearsal.
You mean I have to live out the rest of my life in this body?
When I ADR'd it, it was very difficult.
I said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch! You filthy slut! Did you fuck with me?
There's like 2 or 3 days of losing your voice. Because Chucky's always really gets his in the end.
Andy, no, please. We're friends to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend. Hi, I'm Andy. What's your name? Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi-ho.
My memory of Child's Play, going to see Child's Play, was just such a great character in a movie.
Chucky was just the beginning of Kevin's animatronic work.
This was an important film for him.
It was beyond me.
I got a call from David Kirshner. I had just finished Nightmare on Elm Street 3, I think. And there was an animatronic head in that I had done. Again, it was just had just some simple cables that, you know, moved Freddy's eyelids and his brows and cheeks and mouth and stuff like that, and that was it. So he looked at that, and I came recommended by Rick Baker, who had won the Academy Award recently for American Werewolf in London.
Kevin, I think, was younger than I. I think Kevin was 24 and was beginning to establish himself as the go-to guy for this kind of thing, and he certainly did. I think this helped, as well as Freddy with the beginning of his career, that he was the guy that did both of those.
There really wasn't any training for Child's Play. Animatronics was very young. It was in an infancy stage. There'd only been a few shows that even used animatronics, and the word animatronics comes from Walt Disney, from their work on the amusement parks, the robots, and we just took that and started using it in film. We just had nothing to go, oh, it'll be like this, or oh, we'll build it like that, like this one show that we did before. So it was kind of frightening at first to start from ground zero and build up from there.
The look of Chucky, this physical characteristic, I wrote that in a lot of detail. 2 feet tall, red hair, blue eyes, freckles, overalls. All of that could describe a million different things. Now, David is a very talented artist and had created a line of dolls.
I did a drawing of the good guy doll and then another version of the malevolent Chucky. Kevin took that element and built Chucky from it.
Start with a drawing. And you're not hindered by the fact that you know it's going to be mechanized. You just make a sculpture.
He used to bring a clay model of Chucky's head in to show Tom Holland, David Kirshner, and everybody else. And it was a big table of, the art department was there, the wardrobe people. Everybody was there, and I had to present the Chucky head, and it was made out of this stuff called Roma clay, and it's green and dark and kind of dull.
So the sculpture then becomes what the skin will eventually be, which means you have to make a mold of that face. And when you have a negative mold of that, that's what you put the fiberglass in. And that, of course, if you're following the process, gives you a hard plastic fiberglass core. You put the mechanisms in this fiberglass skin. I saw the understructure for Chucky, and there were a number of mechanisms for subtle things happening in the face.
In one head, it could look sweet, and then it could instantly get angry, and and those little tiny features would suddenly become devilish.
There's one puppeteer that just does the eyes. His job is to blink them, move them left and right, up and down, all that stuff, and that's it. Then you've got a guy that does the brows and the cheeks. You have another guy that just does the mouth. So he's doing the jaw with a mechanism that goes on his head.
Maggie. Yeah, Aunt Maggie. Aunt Maggie. They put an L-shaped bracket in the jaw, so we can do that movement.
This is the most intricate head. We put a test skin on it for now, just with some flesh tone on it.
Man.
So we could practice with it. It's probably one of the most difficult things because Steve's got to coordinate jaw movement with lip movement to get him to pronounce A-E-I-O-U and all the vowels.
I-O-U.
And then he moves the lips with little joysticks with his fingers.
Sleepy. Gesundheit.
So there's 3 people that just work Chucky's face.
Did I get you wet?
I seem to recall that what Kevin did with Chucky was there was a kind of a developmental stage of it's a doll at first, and then it kind of became progressively a bit more human. But I think what that does is psychologically as an audience, you start to believe that it's a bit more alive.
The doll slowly begins to change. It becomes more human. So that the skin quality had to change. It had to go from shiny plastic, toy-like, into more fleshy looking, more human. It had to have little moles and freckles on it. His eyes got deeper.
The eyes went from that sweet kind of sparkling blue to almost this translucent blue. And Kevin came up with that.
Brad has great piercing blue eyes, so we wanted to replicate that.
They immediately almost suggest something evil because you can almost see through the blue.
We even talked about putting beard shadow on him, but we decided against that, go mustache or something, but we opted not to do that.
It follows the line of thinking that we teach the special makeup effects students. What do I need to see to make me believe that what I'm seeing is really happening? So if you can give life to this piece of rubber, the impression of life is there.
Within the makeup effects world, there is kind of a community of artists that are constantly kind of pushing the envelope for the majority of things. So you do different techniques.
I remember being in Kevin's shop and being impressed by the work that was there. And I remember him showing us the walking Chucky.
We had a servo puppet, and what I mean by that is it's little tiny motors that people use in radio-controlled hobby cars or boats or planes. We take those little motors and we put them inside, the body. Today, if we're building any kind of animatronic character and it has a flaw in it, you know that the digital guy can come back later and fix it. Back in the 80s, there was nothing like that, so everything had to be perfect because it couldn't be fixed by CGI. We were nervous the first 2 weeks, but after the guys got a little relaxed, they began to goof off and began to kind of do things on the fly. They could come up with spontaneous moves, and if Tom Holland was watching a rehearsal and he saw something that they did on almost like as an accident, he would say, "Hey, repeat that, do that again." It was tough. I think I was calm, or maybe appeared calm, because I was just scared shitless.
Hi, it's me, Chucky. What do you think?
And the animatronic movement, again, perfectly suited because it's a doll, so you can have a kind of a, 80s animatronic style to it.
You mean I have to live out the rest of my life in this body?
Then we had a all-cable Chucky, bicycle cabled, so that, with joysticks are connected to, cables that go to elbows and everything like that. It was completely cable from head to toe.
Tus trailers, visita mi canal.
Give me the power, I beg of you!
A rod puppet Chucky, one guy that, again, that held the body, you know, he supported the doll as well. So he did the head and the body. And he had the two-arm guys. So he was like a half puppet. We also had a screaming, kicking, self-contained, flailing Chucky. And we put a drill motor inside of his body. And it was all self-contained. And that would move his legs, basically like a screaming little child having a fit on the floor. That's how that one worked.
Now, if you were going to use a little person as an actor in a costume for certain shots, then you have to do a life cast of that actor, and then take all of your physical attributes of what the outer character is and make a costume.
I thought that the moments with the little person in the costume and overscaled sets to make it the right size were great, because it really kind of opened it up, and suddenly there's this thing, you know, running and scrambling. Great use of mixed bag approach.
The value of having physical pieces in front of actors is quite important, and many directors still value that.
It was really a fun process, and even fun to discuss it now as to what we tried to do to bring Chucky from this very gentle form to something that would truly terrify people 20 years later.
John.
Now you can have your very own good guy doll. Right, Oscar?
Hi, I'm Oscar, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi-ho! Wow!
By day, children imagine and pretend, but by night, they have the darkest imaginations in the world.
I wanted to write something that was a dark, satirical look about the world of children's marketing.
Chucky is a doll. He's made of plastic and stuffing. Now, you don't really think that Chucky is alive, do you?
It was really fun to make it something dark and evil.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
This was in the mid-'80s, 1985, and I was a junior at UCLA. Like any horror fan, I had seen The Talking Tina, Twilight Zone, and I was a fan of that killer doll concept. But it occurred to me that that had never been done in such a way where you could treat the doll as a full-fledged character.
Hi, it's me, Chucky. What do you think?
I had been in London with my wife, and I had read a book called The Victorian Dollhouse Murders because I was fascinated by dolls. They scared me. I said to the woman that was running development for me at the time that I would love to do something with dolls, and she said that there was a script about 6 months ago called Blood Buddy, written by a young, talented writer, but it had not sold.
My title for the original script first was Batteries Not Included. Then my agent said, well, we've got to change the title because Steven Spielberg is developing a movie called Batteries Not Included. So then we changed it to Blood Buddy. David read the script and liked it, and he bought it.
I think everybody was pretty shocked that this was what I wanted to do next. I had started off as an illustrator for Jim Henson, and then I did An American Tail. Disney had just signed me to a deal and thought that I would do family entertainment and animation for them. The first project that I bring to them is this project that would become Child's Play.
In my original script, a doll is actually a sort of supernatural manifestation of the boy's id. So the doll is specifically going out and striking out against the people that this kid feels this unexpressed rage toward. One of the features of the dolls that didn't make it to the final film is that they have synthetic blood in them, so that if you play with the doll too roughly, the latex skin will break and then it will start to bleed, and then you have to go out and buy Band-Aids. In a rite of brotherhood, the little boy cuts his thumb and the doll's thumb and mixes their blood together, and it's after that that the doll comes to life.
It's what I always call the Frankenstein moment, what brings something to life. And Don's Frankenstein moment was the idea of the blood ritual. I really did like the idea of the story, but there were elements to me that were missing. But what was very important to me was to really give more of a specific to the central villain of the story.
Hello, Andy.
The first thing that happened was David attached Tom Holland to the project. Tom Holland had written and directed Fright Night, and that was really good. So I was very excited.
For a long time, one of the most frightening memories I had was as a small boy being afraid of my toys. And there's been all the publicity recently on these new animatronic dolls, and the idea of writing a story about a little 6-year-old boy who insists his doll is alive, I thought was fascinating.
Tom went off and rewrote it, and then they brought in a writer named John LaFia.
When I got hired to do it, I went to Toys R Us, and I spent a whole afternoon there looking at all the dolls and all the ones that could talk, to really see how many things could they say.
Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi-ho.
There were some significant changes between my original script and the final version of the movie. In my original script, the mom, I had her as the advertising executive, who's sort of the mastermind behind the whole campaign, because I just thought that that made the satire of that world a little more pointed.
For our director and the other writer, John LaFia, the idea of her being a single mother that was struggling was very important because she couldn't afford to buy the doll.
That was important, that she was recently divorced. The kid was having issues because of that, and we don't know, is this kid unhinged?
Mommy, I know who was on the kitchen counter.
Andy. Who, Andy?
I thought
Who?
Chucky.
Your doll?
I felt that there needed to be more of a backstory with something malevolent that would possess this doll to be so evil, and that was the soul of the serial killer. And the history was that he was the Lakeshore Strangler.
Fundamentally, the biggest changes was really the addition of voodoo.
Tom Holland felt that the character of Charles Lee Ray had a fascination with voodoo, and that at the moment of death, he would pass his soul into this doll.
Chucky goes to his voodoo instructor.
Your own personal mojo, Doc.
Give me that. And I just thought, well, that's a whole other kind of magic that's going on in this movie. So it's like, well, if he has a voodoo doll of this guy, why can't he make voodoo dolls of all the other people he wants to kill? For that matter, as a serial killer, why not make voodoo dolls of all your victims? And it's probably, I don't know, maybe an occupational hazard. Probably best not to think about it too much, but anyway, I find it kind of hilarious.
Well, John, it's been fun, but I gotta go. I have a date with a 6-year-old boy. And you have a date with death.
It was very exciting because there were a lot of studios that were interested in this concept. A man named Tony Thermopoulos, that was head of MGM UA, came out to my office and convinced me why they would be the right studio to make this film. And he also said to me, I want you to not only come make this film there, but come make many films, and I want it to be a place that not only you can thrive and be successful, but a place that you can also fail. And I was very, very taken by that. And these people were incredible as just a support group in getting this film made.
Hey, where are you going? Good guys are on TV.
Well, I may have something better for you.
What?
This isn't groceries.
Dolls are the toys of choice for children of all ages. But in United Artists' suspense thriller Child's Play, that choice may be this child's last.
I knew you'd get me one.
Show me how he works, okay?
Hi, I'm Andy. What's your name? Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end.
Wow, he's something, isn't he?
He sure is. He's something more than the battery-powered doll that he appears to be. He's something evil.
Andy, look! Now, you don't really think that Chucky is alive, do you?
But he is.
Andy, stop it!
There's something about dolls and dolls coming alive that's a common fear that everybody understands because they felt it as children, or they turned off the lights in a darkened child's room, and all of a sudden very benevolent toys take on a frightening aspect.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
When I was a kid, I was scared to death of my sister's dolls. To me, it was the eyes. They just constantly stare, and they seem to know all.
I think that people find the idea of a doll that comes to life something that obviously harkens back to me, to childhood. That there's nothing so horrible as what the imagination creates. I went in today and watched a particular scene in which the doll attacked somebody, and I suddenly realized what this picture is going to be like. It's going to be scarier than hell.
Scary because this doll is the state of the art. The brainchild of wunderkind creature maker, Kevin Yeager.
Okay.
Chucky's designer was the first role cast by Chucky's creator, producer David Kirshner.
Kevin was a lucky guess. Although Rick Baker, who was pretty much the top of the group of those guys, said that this is the one, this is the kid to watch, this is the one who in the next 5 years will be the superstar. And based on what we've seen here, it's absolutely true.
Once Kirshner decided upon Yeager, the next step was developing the right look for Chucky.
We sat down and we spoke, and he sketched, and I sketched, and he seemed to have an understanding of what the character should be and how it should come to life.
Did I get you wet? Yeah. How about a sneeze?
I like that.
Ready?
Sleepy.
Gesundheit.
9 different animatronic dolls were designed, including the flailing Chucky, the demonstrative standing Chucky, and the walking Chucky.
This is the most intricate of all the puppets. There's so many instances where the doll has to walk completely on its own without any kind of limited movement in how many steps it takes. This thing can take up to probably about 10 feet within different shots.
But in every case, the key to Chucky's personality was the design of his face and head.
The eyes do exactly what our eyes do, and with the lids, we can bring his brows down in the middle, or all up a real sad sort of look.
This is the most intricate head. We've put a test skin on it for now, just with some flesh tone on it. So we could practice with it. It's probably one of the most difficult things because Steve's got to coordinate jaw movement with lip movement to get him to pronounce A, E, I, O, U, and all the vowels.
I, O, U.
Give me the power, I beg of you!
In addition to the puppeteer working the mouth, an articulated Chucky can require up to 8 more puppeteers.
This is probably, as far as I know, the most sophisticated puppet movie ever done. I mean, you really believe Chucky is alive sometimes.
He's $1 million actor, this doll, and it's amazing. One would think that it would fall apart constantly, and it hasn't come apart once in this film, which is better than the rest of us.
Say goodbye, Chucky.
It's been fun, but I gotta go. And you have a date with death.